Yeah, we know what it is. They can pay for it all. Do you want to work a day out?
When it went on.
With Kelly, but she's busy girl.
Yeah.
I've got Maddox in the morning, and in the evening.
Did you have those both printed up as well? On Simon again?
Mostly.
Oh, I was just referencing because I have to look at the shoulder and Johnny was with me.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Welcome to the first Monkswell committee meeting since the election in May. So the first item on the agenda is to elect a chair. Do we have any nominations? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh yes, I'd very much like to propose that we elect Councillor Simon Mallet as chairman of this group. I have spoken with him and he said he would be delighted to take up that role, and I've particularly chosen him because I believe that he's got the right skills. He owns some land out at Marshborough, and he's very much, his family are farmers, and they've got very much the knowledge and skills which will come to bear for this committee. So did we have anybody to second my proposal?
I'd like to second it.
Right, thank you very much, Councillor Suka. So, and all those in favour, are we?
Oh, so, yeah, I'm sure I'm just going to come to that in a moment. Yeah, are you, sorry, you were saying all those in favour?
All those in favour, I was going to do a vote. So.
Yes.
All those in favour?
Thank you.
Three of us.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she could be Mr. Pennington.
I just wanted to ensure that since the agenda was published, we have actually had a substitution request. So Councillor Suka would like to substitute this evening for Councillor Mallet. So if everyone could please agree that.
Let's do that first.
Substitution.
Let's do that first.
All those in favour of Councillor Suka substituting?
Thank you. So in the absence of our chair, Councillor Mallet, the Mayor will be chairing the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, sorry, Councillor, could I just ask, are there meant to be two other?
Yes, I haven't had any emails or apologies from Councillor Pennington or Councillor Murray. I'm not sure.
Sorry, are we fully forward?
Yes, three. It's three for months.
Three, is it?
Yes.
Oh, super, okay, thank you.
Sorry to interrupt. Apparently there's no sound on the live stream. I don't know if it's muted.
Now you're asking me. Oh, yes, I didn't press the button. Sorry.
There we go.
Apologies there.
You've got good eyes.
And also, I need to turn on these. That's the.
Doing a brilliant job. Brilliant job. Take seats.
What's that one?
You should have a green light coming on.
Probably
It's flashing.
Oh, super.
It's flashing. I'm not sure. Let me go and check.
Oh yeah, it's flashing green. So.
There you go.
I know that.
That's it.
1, 2, 3, test it.
It's these things. Might have a technical difficulty. That's one on.
Yes, there is, yes. It's just a recording.
Okay, I'm hoping we've got some sound now.
Okay.
But
That's super.
Sorry to check.
Thank you very much for that. I'll just let you settle down.
thank you.
Settle down.
Yes. Yep, sound's working.
Thank you. Apologies for the technical. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, before we start this meeting, do you think these members might have gone to another room in the building, or is that locked?
That's locked, and the caretaker is here.
So but yeah, it's just I didn't want them to be sitting in another room and not knowing that we're in here. So that's fine. Thank you very much for that, Town Clerk. That's excellent there. So item number 2 on the agenda is apologies for absence received. Do we have any apologies, Town Clerk?
Councillor Mallet.
Councillor Mallet, thank you very much. So And item number 3 is declarations of interest, and this is to receive any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interest from members of this committee in respect of the business that will be transacted on the agenda tonight. Do we have any declarations of interest?
No.
No for that, thank you. Item number 4 is co-option, and this is for members to receive a verbal report from the town clerk of the recommendation that the Monks Wall warden is co-opted to the Monks Wall Nature Reserve Committee, and we will be requiring a decision on this matter. Over to you, town clerk.
Thank you. Yes, just to say that obviously Ken's valuable contributions, and I have to say, since I've been the town clerk, it's been a pleasure to meet you and work with you on this few occasions that we have. But I think he's got a valuable contribution. Obviously, he's very key to this committee. Thank you.
I'm just going to say, Chair, that we do have those other co-optees, you know, Andrew Lipsy, he represents Pfizer, and we normally have someone from Finn's estate, the land agents as well. They do reports to help Ken, otherwise it's a lot of work for Ken.
That's right, yeah, indeed, yeah, of course, yeah. And
because we haven't had a meeting for 3 years, I don't think.
No, that's right. And they can be added as and when required, I believe. So okay, so we've had a nomination, and all those in favour of Ken being co-opted onto the committee, please show.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
you're officially nominated onto the committee.
You have to go, otherwise.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 5 is public participation, and this is a 20-minute session is set aside for members of the public to make representations at the meeting in respect of the business on the agenda this evening. Individual representation should not exceed 5 minutes. Written notice of the desire to exercise the right to speak, together with the topic to be addressed, must be given to the town clerk prior to noon on the day of the meeting. Do we have any public participation?
No requests.
No requests, thank you very much. That might be you. Item number 6 is something I've asked for, and this is financial position for Monks Wall Nature Reserve, and for members to receive a report from the RFO that details the current financial position, including earmarked reserves for the Monks Wall Nature Reserve. And this is attachment number 1, and this is really just to give an overview of where we are with this situation currently. So I've lost my
It's quite healthy at the moment, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Indeed.
There wasn't some scoping work done, wasn't there? Was it a new lagoon?
Yeah.
Scrape. Yeah. Is that
That's been done.
it's been done?
It's part of my report.
Yeah, because it was well read. I think the town council, did they have to do it and then
Yes,
pay up front and then claim back off?
Yeah. Yes. Chair, do you want to speak to that?
Indeed,
now?
please do.
Or-
Would you like to give a short update on where we are?
Yeah,
Obviously, you have
yeah.
you have a report coming up on item 7.
Yeah, before we go into that, just on the finances.
Indeed,
So-
that's what we're discussing
Yeah.
presently.
So within STC, we're aware that a £20,000 loan was taken by STC on previous administration, and we've agreed how we're going to pay that back. I just wanted to see how that's reflected in here. Is it an additional amount? Is it subsumed within these figures? Because this is so high level, I don't know whether that's an additional amount to come through as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'd have to find out about that. But obviously, there was the arrangement that was agreed that instead of paying it back as a one lump sum, that it would be paid back £5,000 for each year. So, but that is a very good question.
Yeah. So the point is whether this is the overall true figure, or whether it's an
Exactly.
additional 20,000 over the next 4 years to add in.
I think that's the money in the bank, isn't it? That's the money in the bank.
I should imagine it
With
is.
their account.
Yeah, in the account there. So, and that would be obviously £5,000 each year per annum to increase on that. So, but as is said, it is currently in a very healthy situation. which is good to know. So, did you have an update on the finances in particular? Because I've got item number 7 is a report from yourself.
Yeah. It might be better. It might be more convenient to wait until
Item number 7.
item number 7. That's
perfect.
Well, that's excellent then. So I'm just asking you to note the financial position of the Monkswell Nature Reserve currently, and if of course there was any concerns or questions, anybody can raise those at this present time about the finances.
Yep.
If there's not any questions, I'll move on.
Sorry, apologies.
Apart from your
Apologies, Ken. It's just testing your knowledge. So I think when we did the walk around myself and Lynn, you talked about the funding you get. Yes. Is my recollection right that is a tapered funding, that it will reduce over time, or yes?
Yeah. Okay. It
And
probably is
reports,
appropriate
that's
for me to
fine.
talk
Yeah,
about
well,
that now. Actually,
okay.
yeah. Basically, the reserve gets funding from 2 government funding streams through the Rural Payments Agency.
Yeah.
One of them is called the Basic Payments Scheme, and that produces about £5,400 a year for Monkswell. It's based on the area of the land and the fact that it's being managed for wildlife. That is the one that is tapering off.
Okay.
I believe it's going down by something like 50% annually. The idea behind it is that it's going to be replaced by another. I mean, that was European money. So it's being, as that's fading away, it's being replaced by a homegrown source of funding, which was originally called the ELMS system. They're very good on acronyms.
I have heard about
The
it.
Environmental Land Management Scheme.
Yeah.
But before that's even been put into place, they apparently have actually started spending them, before they've even started spending the money. They've now replaced that with another acronym called the Sustainable Farming Initiative, SFI. So the basic payment scheme is fading down. It's going to be replaced by homegrown funding, but rumour has it that the amount won't be anything like the same as the basic payment scheme. That's the first amount of money that Monkswell gets every year, and has done for a good number of years. The other one is called the Stewardship Scheme, Countryside Stewardship Scheme, and we claim the higher level or higher tier stewardship scheme. It was renewed a couple of years ago at the advice of Mark Chandler. There was an opportunity to renew it. So the current scheme runs until the end of December 26, and that generates about 3,200 a year. So over the whole of that 5-year period from 2022 to 2026, it will be something over 16,000. And then more recently, and this perhaps covers Councillor Franklin's point as well. Last autumn, in fact, the application was put in 2 years ago. The Payments Agency announced that there was money available for capital works, just one-off payment, as opposed to this year-by-year stuff. A bid was put in by myself and Mark Chandler, and the RPA awarded us 38,560 to do basically excavating a scrape, large shallow lake out in the middle of the reserve, and also to do some ditch clearance work. The actual cost of the work came to 14,000, or slightly over 14,000. And I just assumed that we would, that's all that we would get. But I'm informed by a contact I've got from Natural England that no, if the agency have said they're going to give us 38,560, that's what we're going to get. So the difference is something in excess of 24,000, which will come into the funds. And Mark Chandler, and acting on behalf of the Town Council, submitted the claim in January, just like last month. So we're waiting to, hopefully, for that to appear in the Council's budget. It does mean, of course, that we've got an extra in excess of 24,000 to do with as we wish.
Yes.
Did you have
So I suppose that's really, it looks very rosy for now.
Yeah.
But I'm picking up on a couple of points about tapering off and coming to an end. Is there something maybe medium term that we need to sort of plan for in terms of incomes, or are you confident that the levels that we've got projected into the future are healthy enough in terms of sustainability?
Well, my own view is the amount of money that's available is certainly comfortable at the moment.
Yeah.
Obviously, as we go further into the future, I mean, one of the things will be this, what exactly the amount is going to be from the Sustainable Farming Initiative when it comes through. What used to be the basic payments, because that used to produce 5,400 a year.
Yes.
It's going to be less than that, but we don't know how less. And no one knows. The government hasn't announced yet what the rates are going to be. The stewardship scheme will finish in 26, and there's no, I don't think there's any suggestion as to what that's going to be replaced by, if anything. I think what they'll do is they'll merge the old basic payment scheme and the higher level stewardship scheme into one new funding stream. I mean, on the strength of what I thought was quite a comfortable financial position at the moment, I have in my report floated some ideas as to how we could spend some of it. But more of that in a moment.
Exactly. Thank you very much for that. So it's good to know that currently that the Monkswell Nature Reserve is in a reasonable position financially, so which settles that. So, no decision was required.
No.
Just note the report. So, item number 7 is a report from the Monkswell Nature Reserve Warden. Members of the committee are to receive a report from the Monkswell Nature Reserve Warden that spans the period from September 2023 to mid-January 2024. Members are invited to receive the report and consider the Warden's recommendations for actions and activities for 2024, and to form recommendations to the Council, and we will require a decision on this. And this is attachment number 2. Over to you, Ken.
Okay.
If you're ready.
This is quite a lengthy report, so I don't know. I don't propose to read all the way through it. I think people will lose the will to live. But I'll try and pick out some of the main points. This is much the same format as I always used to report to this committee prior to its in former days. So I've made a number of regular visits between September and mid-January, and the figures are there. And then the main management work which has taken place is just to confirm that this capital works did take place largely in September and October of last year. I spent quite a number of days standing out there with bulldozers and diggers trundling by. The firm of contractors is a new one. We've not had dealings with them in the past. I mean, it was put out to tender, obviously, and the firm that got the quote, MRF Contracting, Birchington, they did, I have to say, in a place on record, they did an excellent job. They were very conscientious and very cooperative as well. So anyway, we excavated a shallow lake of about a hectare. We tidied up a lot of the ditches that needed dredging and desilting. Those are the two main bits of work. And then at the same time, a different contractor, Rhino, was asked to come in and bulldoze invading hawthorn and bramble from another part of the reserve. the reserve is so big that you can't really do it with volunteer working groups. We have to have contractors to come in, particularly as there have been not much had happened on the management front in the last several years because of COVID and all the rest of it. So the bulldozers came in and levelled loads and loads of invading hawthorn and bramble and the reason we had to do that is because it was invading an area of rough pasture land which we get RPA money for.
Of course.
If we didn't clear that, the RPA money would cease.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a case, we get paid in order to maintain the bulk of the reserve as what's called a lowland wetland grass area. So if you're allowed to go to turn into scrub and hawthorn, you can't claim the money. You can claim from another fund for hawthorn and scrub, but it's not as much. We had a useful meeting in November with the Environment Agency, which I believe the Town Clerk is talk about later. Since then, the Environment Agency have been on site and most of the winter doing the first part of the work they plan to do. The Environment Agency retain responsibility, without stealing any of Jill's thunder. The Retirement Agency retain responsibility and oversight of the riverbank and the Monk's Wall embankment. And they, their rule trumps everything basically. They, as it should do, because they see the Monk's Wall area as a flood protection device to stop. In the event of a storm surge, the plan is that the water would pour onto Monk's Wall rather than down Strand Street. I'm through the door here. So they retain that responsibility, but we had a very, Ralph, it was a very positive and interesting meeting with a couple of their senior managers back in November. I go out there and check the water levels, and with the onset of winter, I'm able to raise the water level across most of the reserve just by operating a sluice. So I did that. Vandalism, virtually none. We have the occasional bit of graffiti, but it's very intermittent, and I always clean it off immediately. Just pick out one of other points. We probably do need to look at the management plan because it was last revised in 2017-18 and probably could be revised and usefully. Use of no health and safety issues to report. Visitors to the reserve, steady but light use, I think is probably the best way to describe it. It doesn't get hordes of people there. One of the problems in the winter is that one section, there is a circular walk, which is signposted and mapped, but there is one section of that walk which gets extremely wet and boggy, and unless you've got wellies, you won't be able to do the circular walk. It's for councillors who've got their map, it's the section at the base of the A256 embankment. It can be easily put right, but at the minute you can't get through there in the winter when the water level is high. The area is covered by a PSPO to stop the walking of dogs, and by and large that is observed, but we do have one individual who I think lives at the Sandwich Marina, and he persistently climbs over the gate from the marina with his dog and walks along the riverbank. I've challenged him in the past, and other people that go to the reserve have also challenged him, and he totally ignores the challenge. He is in theory, well, not in theory, in practice, in breach of the PSPO by taking his dogs onto that land.
Are they on the leash? Are they free? Did you let them off the leash?
Yeah, they're running free.
Running free.
Yeah. Well, it's one dog. And the first time I spoke to him, he listened and it was very sort of, oh yes, I understand, I won't bring the dog back again. But
Yes,
Yeah. And I believe, Jill, I don't know whether you ever did write to the marina people.
That's on my list of actions, Ken. I've just
Yeah.
written it down. You
Yeah.
just reminded me, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, he's climbing over basically a 7 or 8 foot high fence with barbed wire over the top of it.
Yeah.
And it's got a wire mesh gate across, but there's a gap. I went and checked a week or so ago, and how is he doing it? And there's a gap between where the gate fits into the fence, and he's clearly climbing up and then jumping through the gap and presumably heaving his dog over. And it's annoying because it means that, you know, you get, I mean, there are ground nesting birds, there are various mammals that live in the grass. We don't want dog poo all over the place.
No.
And perhaps most important of all, in the summer, there is a herd of pedigree cattle grazing out there. And you know, a dog off the lead, it would be relatively easy for it
So
to.
the farmer, could you shoot the dog if it's harassing his cattle?
I mean, it is the law that a farmer, you know, is legally entitled to take measures.
Yeah.
Whether Roger Dunn ever would, well, I think he would if he saw the dog chasing one of his pedigree Sussex. Reserve volunteering, and we don't have a working group or a group of volunteers as such, but there are a couple of people who regularly walk around and they always submit records of birds and what other wildlife observations and things to do with management and whatever. It's very helpful. Just some brief stuff on the wildlife this winter. Well, it's been pleasing, you know, having gone to all the lengths and trouble of putting this bid together and getting the money from the Rural Payments Agency to build this scrape, that it has an immediate beneficial effect. The sunbird population's gone up by 100%. Particularly, there's a duck called the teal, which spends the winter here. It breeds in Russia and Northern Europe. And the numbers on that scrape area have doubled this winter compared to previous winters. And there are lots of other things that are also on the increase as well. And then we'll wait and see what the effect is going to be in the springtime in terms of breeding birds. The beavers that live at Gaze and Salts, I've yet to see them on the Monk's Wall side, but they certainly do go across there because you can see the trails up through the reeds that line the riverbank. So they're swimming across the river from Gaze and Salts and climbing up onto Monk's Wall. I've yet to see them. And then the last part of my report is basically just some suggestions as to how we could spend some of the money. With some indicative costings. I mean, my main interest, to be honest, is that having seen the success of this scrape that's gone in this September, is put another one in. On nearer the main car park. But of course this time it would have to be paid for, not by the Rural Payments Agency. It would have to come out of the money that's in the kitty. The sort of area I'm looking at, if folk have got their maps handy, the existing scrape, or the new one, lies to the south of that number 3. This map, by the way, is all of the reserve, and it's divided, for management purposes, you divide nature reserves into what are called compartments, because each compartment would manage differently depending on exactly what outcomes you want to achieve. So the compartment we're looking at is the major part of the reserve, which is Area 3. The existing scrape that was excavated in September lies just south, in other words, just down from the number 3, on both sides of that long ditch that you can see running across the middle of the reserve from the number 3. My ambition would be, if you go up from the number 3 towards the top of the photograph, you'll see a long, windy ditch that ends in a pond. What would be nice would be to put a scrape, a larger scrape where that pond is, and roughly in that area there, and then build a hide next to it along the footpath that runs along the bottom of that embankment. That wouldn't put a scrape, a large lake, and a new public hide within a couple of 100 metres of the main car park. So that it would allow people who have perhaps more limited mobility and can't do the walk all the way around, at least to be able to park their car, walk along fairly flat ground to a bird hide, and overlook a new facility there, a shallow lake with some islands for the birds to nest on and so on and so forth. And the other neat thing would be that the hide would face in such a direction that in the afternoon and evening the sun would be behind you, so you'd have the light going out onto where people are looking. I estimate, based on the cost of the scrape we had done last September, I estimate this might cost about £8,000, depending on exactly the estimates and whatever from different people. Bird hide, perhaps 15,000. We'd have to get some quotes in. There are very few people who actually know how to build bird hides. It's quite a specialist sort of thing to do. Having said that, Eagle Sheds, I've had a quote from them in the past, not for this reserve, but for something we were doing at Sandwich Bay Bird Observatory. But eventually we went to a specialist firm up in Lincolnshire. But I would think that for a small hide, I mean, these are very much guesstimates. I've not put feelers out on these because I wouldn't, obviously it's councillor's decision to give the go ahead or not, as the case may be. The footpath along the bottom of the A256 there, along that embankment, needs raising.
It's very muddy, isn't it?
It's impassable.
Track, isn't it?
It's impassable, effectively. I've also, in compartment 1, right up in the top of the photograph, this is an odd little area that no one goes into, mostly because it's impenetrable. Yeah, but there is actually a footpath that goes around most of it. And if you could put a circular path all the way around, that would make it as an extension to the reserve for people to go into a different sort of area.
It's part of the old railway embankment.
It is indeed, yeah.
There was talk a few years ago about scraping that more vertical for sand martins to
Yeah,
might be a thing in years to come.
Yeah.
Depending on finances, of course.
Yeah, the bit at the top there, where it goes into an obvious farmer's field there. Just there. That curve there is the line of the old railway line that ran eventually to Richborough Port. Yeah, so there is actually an embankment there, but it's all hidden by scrub. Smaller things, but nonetheless useful. Quite a number of the gateways around the reserve need raising. The cattle churn them up and so a lot of the internal field gates need building up with some hardcore standard farming practice really. The fences need checking around the reserve places. The main car park could do with an upgrade with some more hardcore, and then completely separate from the management side of things, and I think it's long overdue that the reserve is publicised. Link from the Town Council website. I mean, that is very old.
Yes, I'm going to come on to that.
But that's the sort of thing that you could easily do, and it wouldn't cost that much really.
That car park would be better to have like chippings if we could get Kent County Council to put a load of chickens in there for us.
Yeah.
You know, they do their road work.
Yeah, ideal.
Might have to pay for them. There's a load more on the Ash Road, but I think he's going to use them.
Yeah.
That's the sort of thing though, in the old
What you mean, wood chippings?
No, they, when they do the tarmac,
Oh yeah,
they have
yeah,
that milling machine, don't they? They chip it all up.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible that both for the car park and for the raising of that footpath, that we might prevail upon the Environment Agency
Oh, good. Yeah.
to, I mean, I don't know, but it's worth a try.
Oh, yeah.
And they've got loads of money.
Yeah.
But they certainly use that car park, and they certainly use that track or footpath that goes down there in order that they can get to their riverbank. And if we said to them, well, why don't you pay for upgrading the car park and that path as a gesture of goodwill?
Yeah, they contractors use it all the time, don't they? And the seaboard, don't they?
Yeah.
They use it as well, their big trucks and tractors.
That's
We
right.
blame them.
Yeah.
Nice if they help though, wouldn't it? They do it.
Yeah. The Environment Agency are very concerned about the riverbank, and they don't want cars driving on it.
Yeah.
Which was a bit of a blow because
I'm kind of doing it. I'm not doing that right now.
no. Yeah.
The chest.
So I mean, if we did all of the things that I've suggested,
Yes.
it would come to something over 30,000. But that's very much a wild guess. It could be a good deal less than that.
Oh, excellent. That's really good. Thank you very much.
That's okay. First of all, thanks. Brilliantly informative report. Well presented, so thank you for that. I just wanted to touch a bit on the publicising and which I think you talked to us about, myself and Lynn and Mark when we went around, was about, you'd like to encourage more visitors. So I had at least one idea, but certainly looking at publicising it. We've got a Facebook page. We've also got a number of councillors who do share stuff across Facebook. When we did our walk around with you, Ken, which was really good, it was interesting. We got a really good reaction across a number of Facebook pages, but also a number of people who said, I didn't really know about it, who were local residents. So I think there's definitely something to tap into. And one of the ideas I had is that we may want to look at doing something like once a month in the summer months, a Sandwich Town Council guided walk. And that in itself becomes a publicity vehicle for people who would come up under their own guises. It also engages a council in an asset it owns. So I just wondered if we could explore that as a possibility, Ken, and either guided by the experts or even by lesser mortals, like even councillors themselves could. I'm not looking at you in person, I'm looking at myself in reflection, but I'm sure there's a number of councillors who would like to get, because I think it's a brilliant asset, and I just think it's just not known about enough.
No.
We don't want thousands of people going, but in a managed manner, it would be really good just to promote it as a town council asset and get people engaged in that.
How many months a year is it closed during the nesting season?
It's not closed at all.
Not closed at all. No, they usually one time, don't they?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask about the nesting season, because obviously, as you said, we want people to use it, we want people to use it sensibly.
Yeah, sympathetically.
So either escorted or if there was some form of instructions to...
Because the waymark footpath is where it is, there's like a circular walk you can do all the way around, which is the walk that we did, which doesn't actually impinge on the main central part of the reserve at all. I mean, the central part of the reserve, area compartment 3, is off limits in the summer anyway, A, because it's got the livestock out there,
That's right.
and B, that's where there will be nesting water birds.
Yeah.
And also, you don't want people wandering around alongside deep ditches and now a hectare of scrape.
Exactly.
And the same is true for Area 4 along the Monks Way Road. That is grazed and that is off limits as well. But you can see virtually all of the main part of the reserve by just gently ambling around the circular walk.
So I think
with
we've probably
views in all
got 3 or
directions.
4 months to explore and develop an idea. And it's not going to be difficult to advertise. It can be done on Facebook. You don't want 50 people turning up. If 10 people turned up and enjoyed a morning's walk around such a great place, then I think that's a success. Because this, as you say, is quite old. And I think actually it's a good piece of material. The issue is any leaflet gets...
You've got to get that off in uniform, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. It gets subsumed with other leaflets. And as an example, if you put this outside, because people don't know about the reserve, I don't think many people would even pick it up as, I must look at that. And so it's getting the marketing right, as opposed to thinking, well, people always did leaflets, we do leaflets again. So it's developing the right strategy for the reserve.
The councillors might be interested to hear that I did put Monk's Wall Nature Reserve on Google Earth.
Did you?
And got it on there.
Great.
And about 2 weeks ago, I got a message from Google Earth saying thank you for da 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 da. 80,000 people have now logged that name.
Wow.
I thought, well, I must have missed those 80,000. Glad I wasn't there on that day later. I mean, lots of people look at things without, obviously.
I was going to say, when you go down the Sandwich Bay Bird, you have a chalkboard or stockage that you exactly with that day. Do you think that factory could do something like that? Have like a stockage page, what's nesting and what's passing through? A lot of the birds have come through a migratory, haven't they? They're here for a few days. I remember the pair of poppies once. And I thought, now they're gone. I missed them. And also, did you get much predation from foxes? I know we had trouble with the fox one time, a vixen and a cub. I mean, I think they killed a swan one time.
Yeah, well, two things. I mean, in terms of publicising the wildlife that's there, passing birds or breeding birds, there used to be a whiteboard in one of the bird hides that was taken down some time ago because it did get graffiti. It seems to me these days the logical place for it would be on some sort of website. That's where people would look up for those things. And the second point about predation, I mean it is an ongoing issue. There are foxes out there, and there are crows and magpies. And it's the age-old dilemma if you're running a nature reserve. What do you do?
Try and move a bit.
You can't.
I'm going to ask you about owls. I saw a beautiful owl there one Saturday morning. You said it was a lonely owl because he lost its partner, I believe. You can put owl boxes up.
We put 2 or 3 years ago now. We put 2 barn owl nest boxes out there. They were donated by a group that's putting barn owl nest boxes all the way down the Stour Valley. I think they've been there for 3 years, and certainly 2 out of the 3 years they had young successfully raised. I mean, last year the pair raised 4 owlets, which is nice.
Can I say something?
Yes, please do.
Just a couple of things really. One was about a very simple, rather than have the leaflets that, as Emmett says, get overlooked. How about some nice big posters showing some lovely pictures of the nature reserve with some of the wildlife on it? You could have some out here, you could have some various places out, around the town, etc. To catch people's eyes, rather than that. The other thing is, I'm slightly concerned about this gentleman with the doggy. Is there nothing we can do? Because apart from anything else, I like the thought of the dog being shot rather than its owner. That just doesn't seem right at all to me. I don't like that idea at all. So what can we do to stop this happening? Any ideas?
Well, I've suggested that a letter be written to the management at the marina.
Okay.
Because they must know who's living there. I'm sure that the person concerned is probably on a houseboat on the marina, and he walks the dog early in the morning, as you do. I mean, I'm not a dog owner, but I know that dog owners walk them early in the morning and late in the afternoon. And I've personally not seen him myself for
The-
ages,
the
but
place-
recently I did get a report from one of the two folk who do walk here more regularly. They live closer, and Dee, she reported back to me and said that she'd spoken to the man again, and he just listened in total silence and then just ignored her and didn't say anything.
Okay, you know where you said he accessed. Can we not board that up or do something to stop the access?
It's tricky because it's not out. I don't think it's our gate. I think it was either put up by the marina, because it marks where the marina ends and the riverbank starts.
Okay.
Having said that, the gate does have an Environment Agency sign on it on the marina side, so it might be that the Environment Agency put the thing up, but they won't want to get involved in any issues we have with dog walkers. I did think about putting some more barbed wire to plug the gap.
Yeah.
But to do that, you'd actually have to barb wire between the gate post and the gate itself. And you'd have to coil barbed wire around too, in which case you couldn't open the gate in case of an emergency.
Yeah.
So it is tricky. So, but I think the first thing is to try this business of getting a letter sent to the management of the marina, pointing out that there is no access to the reserve that way, and we have reason to believe that someone either working or living on the marina is regularly walking their dog along there in an area where dogs are not permitted, and it is covered by bylaw, by
So he could be fined or
public space
something?
protection.
Yeah.
Public space protection.
The only way you could get that enforced, of course, by law is by a police officer.
Yeah.
So we'd have to monitor this. Obviously, we can undertake the letter, but if it did continue, we would need a uniformed police officer to come and enforce the bylaws. The other thing that I wanted to raise, actually, at this point, particularly to the publicity, I don't know if Councillor Franklin remembers, but it's cropped up 2 or 3 times that there's an initiative for like friendly walkers and friendly cycling. And I remember going to a presentation down at the Bell Hotel, which was to do with like a friendly walkers initiative, and it was to get out some leaflets, which would have been national, and to encourage people and say Sandwich was a friendly walkers area, and promote places for walkers to come to. So quite possibly we're missing a trick that a lot of walkers aren't coming to Sandwich thinking, well, what areas are there to walk apart from going down to the beach and back, and perhaps they're completely missing this. And if Sandwich became a friendly walking environment,
I think they generally stick to public footpaths and bridleways, and this isn't registered as a public footpath and bridleway.
No.
The only way is like word of mouth.
Yeah.
Or there is the Wednesday walkers, and there are other people. It's to us to spread the word among the local people and say it's not a public footpath, and the public can go down there.
I have taken escorted walks around the place, including, I can't remember the name of the group, but it was a local walking group.
Oh, was it?
With about 15 or 20 people.
20 walks.
And they weren't aware of the place, but they said they would certainly go back. And now they know where it is and that it's easy to walk around and whatever. I've also taken escorted groups with the members from the Bird Observatory, and I've also done a couple of talks to local community groups, and I've got another one lined up for Birchington WI, I think.
Excellent.
They wanted me to do a talk about the Monkton Nature Reserve, and I said, it's not Monkton, there is a nature reserve.
There is one.
Well, I don't know anything about that. I think you mean Monk's Pool. I'll do it. So I said, well, that would do.
That's good.
So is it possible to agree an action that either is owned and developed in this group, but this group only meets infrequently, or alternatively we could take it to STC and get a couple of councillors, 3 councillors, to take it away as a project, because I think actually it's not difficult to do.
Yeah.
And if you did it over 3 or 4 months, you could easily prepare for it.
Yeah.
We've also got the schools around, you know, they may be willing to, wanting to, not willing, it's not dragging them,
Yeah.
but it might be something that they might want to tap into as well.
Yeah.
But subject to Ken's time
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
It was a shame that walkabout was such a terrible wrong day because I was going to come and I looked out the
It
window
was.
and I thought you were so brave with you. Well, I do know I do walk it quite regular, but I thought I'm not going this morning.
we
Yeah.
did,
Like
yeah,
that.
we didn't look
Chicken.
we didn't look as good as we when we started.
Well, as I say, the items to do with the improvements would have to be taken to full council.
Yeah.
So they need to come up on the next full council. And then if you wanted to propose something to go forward, Councillor
I'm
Duker,
happy to draft a short report.
if you want to draft something and put that to the town clerk, and then that could perhaps be added to an agenda item for full council, if that's okay.
Oh, sorry, Chair, I should have to point out that if the full council does approve these suggestions, the work would need to be done as last year, at the end of the previous season, before the winter rain comes.
Yeah.
So you're looking at effectively at September into early October.
Yeah.
So if full council were to consider this and then approve,
Well, that's it.
then it would give us a good number of time to get quotes in
Get quotes
and site meetings and so on.
Okay.
But then have a look, couldn't we, as
That's
well?
it.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, and thank you very much for your report. That's very kind, very influential, and updated us on what's happening currently there. So thank you very much for that. So that's item number 7. So
Yeah.
the decision.
Yes,
You want
please.
to vote on that?
Yes, please.
Okay. So we need to actually vote on the decision for the adopting the Warden's report and for the initiatives, suggested major actions and activities to go forward to council. So all those in favour of that?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So that's that one there. Item number 8 is Countryside Stewardship and Rural Payments Update. And the town clerk is to share the details of the DEFRA Countryside Stewardship Agreement for the higher tier document, which ends on the 31st of the 12th, 2026. The Warden is to share a verbal update on the rural payments in progress or received to date since September 2023, which you may possibly have done already actually. And this is attachment item number 3, so this is information only.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So it was just really to share, of those of you who are not very familiar with this, and I certainly wasn't myself until I took this post. So it's just really for everyone to get sight of the agreement document and to observe that the start date was the 1st of the 1st, 2022, and it actually ends the 31st of December 2026, as Ken said earlier. And it was just really to share all the details, because it is quite interesting and obviously quite technical and involved. And I wouldn't absolutely know all the details, but I'm trusting Ken, obviously very involved in his expertise. So I think the council should be very happy that Ken's involved. I think.
Indeed,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Thanks go to the Warden for maintaining this, keeping this update. And obviously there would be a necessity, probably sometime 2025, to getting this redrafted or submitted, I guess.
Well, with whatever is going to replace the stewardship scheme, which we hopefully will know by then, if we don't know now. I mean, the actual documentation, I can't claim any credit for that. The work, the hard graft, is done by the real expert, that's Mark Chandler. I mean, he is a chartered surveyor, and it's him that does all the number crunching and knows whatever. But the essential thing is that once he's done that, and the work that he's done has to be reflected in the reserves management plan, because a lot of the reserve is covered by our commitments to the RCA.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only some of the fringe areas that aren't covered by the stewardship agreements. I mean, area 1, 2, and 5, or 4D, And those aren't covered by stewardship, so we could do much more what we want on there. Whereas the other ones, we have to make sure that the management plan ties in with what we've said we're going to do to the RPA to get the money that they give us.
Excellent. Well, that's excellent news. Do we have any queries or questions on this document?
No, not on this, no, I've got quibbles about it.
Okay, then, well, I thank the warden and the town clerk for bringing this document forward to us, and look forward to continuing with the works that are specified therein. And then item number 9 is Monk's Wall Tidal Flood Relief Area, and the town clerk is to share a verbal report on the implications for the council as landowner following the registration of Monk's Wall Tidal Flood Relief Area as a large raised reservoir, and members are to note the report. So I'll hand over to.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, so this is really just to update the committee, because obviously you haven't met since the election. So this is the implications for the council as landowner, and this is the Environment Agency wrote to the Town Council to advise of this situation. So the registration of Monk's Wall as a large raised reservoir will have an impact on Sandwich Town Council as landowner. There is no change in legal ownership of the embankments, spillways, impounding area or any other structure which will remain owned by the council. All inspections, maintenance and operation of the reservoir will remain responsibility of the Environment Agency. Any work the council or any other third party wishes to undertake on or near the embankments will continue to require permission from the Environment Agency, and that was communicated in detail at a meeting that I attended with the warden. The implications for the Environment Agency, so as part of the registration process, the Environment Agency has taken on the role of reservoir undertaker for Monk's Wall FSR. This means they are responsible for complying with all the regulations within the Reservoirs Act 1975 and any other directions made in accordance with the Act. The Environment Agency fulfils this role for all reservoirs under its control in England, and in accordance with the Reservoirs Act, they have appointed a qualified civil engineer to supervise the reservoir and provide them with advice. This role is known as the supervising engineer. Registration has had little impact on how they maintain the embankments and other structures, or how the site will be managed during an impounding event. The Environment Agency staff will continue to carry out routine activities, which include monthly walkover to check condition of all the assets, 6 monthly formal asset inspection, cut the grass on the spillway embankment every 6 weeks during the summer, cut the grass on the non-spillway embankments 3 times per year, regular testing and operation of outfall flaps and penstock, removal of silt from the discharge structure, internal surveys of culverts, topographical surveys of embankments, minor repairs to embankments and structures as required, and commission more significant repairs as required using contractors. And in addition to the above, the Reservoirs Act also requires them to carry out an annual inspection and report by the supervising engineer, and this is usually carried out every 6 months according to Environment Agency policy. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Town Clerk.
When we went to that meeting, we talked about, will they notify you when they open the sluices up if there's a thing then, or do you have to be there and monitor it, or they just come along and open it all up? Because there's also sluices across 4B, 4C that go into Pfizer's, isn't there?
No,
Are they blocked off now?
they're blocked off.
There's probably houses going in, that's what I'm saying about it. There's probably a load of houses going in that area there.
The only sluice that drains the reserve, sorry, that's not quite true. There are 2 sluices.
Yeah,
The main one is just up from letter 4D, just to the left of 4D, and that is the main sluice, that bit there, and that drains directly into the River Stour. And then there is another sluice which is down to the left, to the right of 4D, down towards the marina, and it's where it's it's just there.
Oh, I see, that's it.
And it was interesting because when I raised that at this meeting, the Environment Agency denied any knowledge of it.
Yes, I was
And they
saying.
said nothing to do with us, mate, or words to that effect. But that one also drains the land. But that sluice actually drains all of area 4A, 4B and 4C.
Oh.
So there are ditches alongside all of that banana-shaped bit of land, and then the water drains down that ditch there out into the river. And it's one of these one-way sluices, you know, where the gates open according to the tide.
So we don't get any sort of water from that area there?
No water comes from Fires onto the reserve at all. I don't know where, I mean, Fires must drain the other way,
Yeah.
you know, into the river Stour up there.
You can see sort of gates, if you walk along there, you can
Yeah,
see.
there are
across.
sorry, there are some on the Monk's Wall embankment.
Yeah.
There are some sluices,
Yeah.
and the idea behind that is that, in theory, water could drain out of compartment 4 into 3 and then
Yeah.
into the river.
Yeah.
But I keep the water level in compartment 3 so high
Yeah, kick it.
that the gates never
One
get
way.
never get a chance to
Oh, that's all right.
never get a chance to drain that way. I mean, just as a sort of comment on that meeting, the news came through from the Environment Agency that they wanted about the stuff that the town clerk had just read out. The very week that I was stood out in the middle of compartment 3 with bulldozers and diggers crisscrossing in front of me. And to say I was a bit nervous was to put it mildly, because I thought, because we hadn't formally consulted the Environment Agency about doing the scrape. I had an informal conversation some years ago with one of the agency managers, and he said, oh, that's no problem. And so it actually turned out in the meeting that we had in November, the agency, the 2 area managers there, including Ian Nunn, who was the senior manager, he said, what you do, in other words, what the town council does on the land is nothing to do with us, we're not interested. He said if you bulldoze holes everywhere, all you're doing is moving the earth from one place to another, but you're not changing what they call the volumetric. In other words, the amount of space for flood water to pour into in the event of the storm surge will be the same. It'll just be in a different place. So they're not interested in whatever we do inside the reserve, like create scrapes. They are very interested, as you would gather from reading, listening to the town club has read. They are very interested in anything to do on the embankments. They don't want any. They said that the 3 lifebuoy stations to be put in. That they said, we won't ask you to take them out, but if you were to apply to put them in now, we would have to refuse you. Same goes for the bird hides. They don't want any constructions on the embankment at all because they think it will weaken there's a plastic membrane.
Of course.
And then just lastly, what was the other point I was going to make? Oh yes, they have actually started doing some of their work. There's a long hedgerow that runs all the way along the riverbank round that part of the thing. And they said they were going to do it, and they have started doing it. They've gone in there and they've thinned out the hedge. And the idea is that because it was all scrubby and a dense hedge, that in the event of a storm surge, this would impede the flow of water from the river onto the fields. And they've now cleared all of that out, which so it looks very different. You can actually see through the hedge now into the fields. One slight fly in the ointment is that we actually claim from the Rural Payments Agency for that hedge. And we know, because the Environment Agency have cleared, they've not cleared the hedge, they've cleared all the scrubby bits and they've left tree trunks. But technically I think we can no longer claim for that hedge because it doesn't meet the criteria that we, it's about 290 odd quid a year, so I think we can live with that. I think there are 1 or 2 things that we probably need, Chair, to contact Mark Chandler about, so that he can contact the Rural Payments Agency. Because as well as the hedgerow, we've now lost a hectare of meadowland.
That's just
now
under
underwater.
underwater, yeah.
And so we're going to have to reduce the claim we make for the actual field area.
Yes, of course.
Rather than have the environment and the Rural Payments Agency find out later, and you as chair will be thrown into the tower.
Exactly.
Or Councillor Mallet when he becomes chair.
Indeed.
It's better to tell the Rural Payments Agency in advance.
Oh, definitely.
And they'll just make an adjustment into how much money
And those are the two areas, because to flag those up, because obviously I could instruct the town clerk to contact Mark Chandler.
Yeah, I think it might be a good idea.
So those two are,
Yeah.
so we need a letter to Mark Chandler. Is he still with Finns? Is
Yes,
he?
yeah. He's based just across the road.
That's it, yeah, that's it, yeah. That's good.
Okay.
And just highlighting those two areas.
And if the full council were to approve the excavation of another scrape up there, of course, the same
would apply, of course. Yeah. That's good. Okay then. Well, thank you very much for that, for the explanations and the presentations tonight from both the town clerk and the warden. I'm very grateful to you both for all the work you've put in on this, and it looks like it's a very healthy and successful area, and a very healthy and successful asset for the town council. So I've got item number 10 as date and time of next meeting, which will be confirmed. Will this be like a quarterly?
That's what I was
Like a quarterly meeting, yeah. So if we say that this will be a quarterly meeting, so if you do have any other items that you do wish to be brought up at the next meeting, please put those through to the town clerk so they'll be on the agenda for the next meeting, if that's okay. And so with that, I officially close the meeting, town clerk.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your input and advice. That's very helpful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening to you all.